Hacker. A hacker is a person skilled in information technology who achieves goals by non-standard means. Though the term hacker has become associated in popular culture with a security hacker, someone with knowledge of bugs or exploits to break into computer systems and access data which would otherwise be inaccessible to them. Hacking can also be utilized by legitimate figures in legal situations. For example, law enforcement agencies sometimes use hacking techniques to collect evidence on criminals and other malicious actors. This could include using anonymity tools such as a VPN or the dark web to mask their identities online and pose as criminals. Likewise, covert world agencies can employ hacking techniques in the legal conduct of their work. Hacking and cyber attacks are used extra-legally and illegally by law enforcement and security agencies conducting warrantless activities, and employed by state actors as a weapon of legal and illegal warfare. Reflecting the two types of hackers, there are two definitions of the word hacker. Originally, hacker simplemetenkov, enthusiast bothard Warenstov and at Arenta Frogaman Gramsik. See hacker culture. 2 Simeoni he's a bloodacuve shichichit. If doing so for maliciopes, thepason canalisable. Mainstream usage hacker moslerefa stokrada kikikikir judo themis medojaso drasto 1990s. This include deswaklashan script kiddies people. Break and jinto kopyusa trajagenuja with virilita logal do chutotokala. This asadjus beacon edom. Thorth the self-designation of farbasada krishishishi. Po plefram thepraglam. And emphasize zethabaween dreef crackers analogous to a safrika crick. The controversibilis, with so methengynostopes status, using playful cultants, buthan, it is supposed, thimianingo gofthodum, as the security relative do sajazadri dre theoriginalmianagina sheshashashasha. In popular sagendanjidandadanji, computer intruders or computer criminals is the exclusive vaimandra. In computer renthasanshashashashan theprimara meaning, is a complementary feistrio dryo. A large segment topical jargon philitif. Representation in mainstream media. The mainstream media's current usage of the term may be traced back to the early 1980s, when the term, previously used only among computer enthusiasts, was introduced to wider society by the mainstream media in 1983. Even those in the computer community referred to computer intrusion as hacking, although not as the exclusive definition of the word. In reaction to the increasing media use of the term exclusively with the criminal connotation, the computer community began to differentiate their terminology. Alternative terms such as cracker were coined in an effort to maintain the distinction between hackers within the legitimate programmer community and those performing computer break-ins. Further terms such as black hat, white hat, and grey hat developed when laws against breaking into computers came into effect, to distinguish criminal activities from those activities which were legal. Representation in network news. Network news use of the term consistently pertains primarily to criminal activities, despite attempts by the technical community to preserve and distinguish the original meaning. Today, the mainstream media and general public continue to describe computer criminals with all levels of technical sophistication as hackers and do not generally make use of the word in any of its non-criminal connotations. Members of the media sometimes seem unaware of the distinction, grouping legitimate hackers such as Linus Torvalds and Steve Wozniak along with criminal crackers. As a result, the definition is still the subject of heated controversy. The wider dominance of the pejorative connotation is resented by many who object to the term being taken from their cultural jargon and used negatively, including those who have historically preferred to self-identify as hackers. Many advocate using the more recent and nuanced alternate terms when describing criminals and others who negatively take advantage of security flaws in software and hardware. Others prefer to follow common popular usage, arguing that the positive form is confusing and unlikely to become widespread in the general public. A minority still use the term in both senses, despite the controversy, leaving context to clarify or leave ambiguous which meaning is intended. However, because the positive definition of hacker was widely used as the predominant form for many years, Before the negative definition was popularized, hacker can therefore be seen as a shibboleth identifying those who use the technically oriented sense as opposed to the exclusively intrusion-oriented sense as members of the computing community. On the other hand, due to the variety of industries software designers may find themselves in, many prefer not to be referred to as hackers because the word holds a negative denotation in many of those industries. A possible middle ground position has been suggested, based on the observation that hacking describes a collection of skills and tools which are used by hackers of both descriptions for differing reasons. The analogy is made to locksmithing, specifically picking locks, which is a skill which can be used for good or evil. The primary weakness of this analogy is the inclusion of script kiddies in the popular usage of hacker, despite their lack of an underlying skill and knowledge base. Sometimes hacker is simply used synonymously with geek. A true hacker is not a group person. He's a person who loves to stay up all night, he and the machine in a love-hate relationship. They're kids who tended to be brilliant but not very interested in conventional goals. It's a term of derision and also the ultimate compliment. Fred Shapiro thinks that the common theory that hacker originally was a benign term and the malicious connotations of the word were a later perversion is untrue. He found that the malicious connotations were already present at MIT in 1963, quoting The Tech, an MIT student newspaper, and at that time referred to unauthorized users of the telephone network, that is, the freaker movement that developed into the computer security hacker subculture of today. Hacker culture. Hacker culture is an idea derived from a community of enthusiast computer programmers and systems designers. In the 1960s, around the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's MIT's Tech Model Railroad Club TMRC and the MIT Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, the concept expanded to the hobbyist home computing community, focusing on hardware in the late 1970s, for example the Homebrew Computer Club, and on software video games, software cracking, the Damascene in the 198 OS 199 OS. Later, this would go on to encompass many new definitions such as art and life hacking. Types: security-related hacking. Security hackers are people involved with circumvention of computer security. Among security hackers, there are several types, including white hat hacker, black hat hacker, grey hat hacker. Civic hacker. Motives. 4 primary motives have been proposed as possibilities for why hackers attempt to break into computers and networks. First, there is a criminal financial gain to be had when hacking systems with the specific purpose of stealing credit card numbers or manipulating banking systems. Second, many hackers thrive off of increasing their reputation within the hacker subculture and will leave their handles on websites they defaced or leave some other evidence as proof that they were involved in a specific hack. Third, corporate espionage allows companies to acquire information on products or services that can be stolen or used as leverage within the marketplace. Lastly, state-sponsored attacks provide nation-states with both wartime and intelligence collection options conducted on, in, or through cyberspace.